next, we're going to get into this week's property management question of the week. So that's the segment we're going to get into here now. A couple of questions that I've been asked over the last couple of weeks. Now, one of these in particular is going to be SEO generated, but it's a common question that I get, and I want to dive into it a little bit more. And then a couple of these are going to be ones that were a little bit triggering to me as the questions came in. So here we go. Let's start off with. Well, man, this is a tough one. Which one do I start off with? Let's start off with this one first. All right. One of the questions I got the other day was a very simple question. It's not that it's a bad question. It's that you can ask it in a much more informative way, in my opinion. So here it is. The question was, how do you handle maintenance requests? And to me, that is such a very basic question that's not going to generate the answers that I think that you should be evaluating when you're considering hiring a property management question. Is how they handle maintenance requests important? Of course it is. But the question that you need to be asking, instead of just simply how do you handle maintenance requests, it's how do your maintenance protocols help preserve the property's value and prevent costly issues, in addition to increasing your tenant retention, because that's exactly what maintenance response handling will result in, is tenant retention. It's probably one of the biggest factors in your tenant retention. So I want to know, how quickly do you respond to these tenant maintenance requests? I want to know, maybe even more importantly, as we've talked about earlier in the earlier segment on the podcast here, is that you're not going to cash flow in today's investment properties like you used to. So you need to be looking at all factors of your investment asset that you have here, which is going to be preserving that asset over long term. So you're going to be looking for preventative maintenance items, right? Not just responding to the ones that the tenant's got a clogged toilet. How are you responding to that maintenance concern? But I want to know that you're keeping an eye on my property, and that when you're doing inspections, that you're pointing out preventative maintenance items. Is the soffit starting to rot? Is the landscape in need of whatever it may be? There are several things that you can do that are preventative maintenance that are going to preserve the value of your asset, which is probably, especially in today's economic environment, is probably one of the biggest investment items that you should be protecting when it comes to your investment asset. So, Mike, what's your take?
No, I 100% agree. Preventative maintenance can help you out so much, can save you so much. You mentioned the soffit, having your gutters cleaned, having the downspouts in proper areas. I mean, water can do so much damage, and if you just have those small little things fixed and attended to, you can save yourself so much money. One thing that we started pushing a couple of years back was these HVAC preventative maintenance, so these semi-annual services. And two things on that. So one, we have seen a 30% decrease in our overall HVAC spend since we've been pushing these, which is really remarkable, really remarkable. So that in and of itself, and that's like, I don't know, $100 a time or something very, very affordable. But then also what it does is it, like you talked about, tenant satisfaction. So if you're able to get out there and service, so right now we're doing our AC servicing, right? If you can get out there, they put it through the tests, and they can replace whatever it may be, a transistor or whatever it is, a switch that needs to be is probably going to fail in the middle of the summer, and you can avoid that emergency call. You can avoid that tenant getting hot. If somebody calls at 4:00 on a Friday, the odds are that they're going to have to go through the weekend, with no AC if they don't have that part or whatever. So anyway, it's just that also can lead to tenant satisfaction, tenant retention, just by doing a lot of that preventative maintenance type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So be sure when you're vetting your property management company that you're not just simply taking the questions that Google's generating for you and just taking them at face value. You've got to be digging in a little bit deeper to how your property management company is going to completely protect your asset maintenance related, and not just responding to those maintenance concerns as they happen to come in, but preventative maintenance and so many other areas where maintenance or work related on your property is of great concern, or should be of great concern to you. So that was one I wanted to get into. All right, here we go. Let's get into another one here. This is one I just added it last night because it was a conversation. A guy called in. It was about 6:30, and so I went ahead and took it, and to much regret. But and the reason is because here's the story. Here's the back here, and I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you. Well, okay, here we go. All right, just was just triggering. Obviously, it's triggering. Okay, all right. So here's the backstory: is he's got a property. It's been on the market for a long time, and that because of the vacancy on the property, he assumes that a property management company can do something more for him to lease the property a little bit quicker. So he calls in, and I want to get into the particulars of, well, what's the history on the property? What's been happening? Are you getting showings? Is it what's the price history? These are things that I'm trying to inquire so that I can educate him better. Not so that he becomes a client, because I sincerely want to assist him with identifying what the concerns are, and then I can tell him, well, number one, if we can assist, and then how we can assist. So these are things I'm trying to get into when I'm on the call with him, and he insists over and over again to only be interested in the fee structure, which is fine. So his question is, what are your fees? And that's fine. I have no problem answering that question. But it is important with whoever we work with, understand that there is so much more to the fee structure. Because if you're calling around because your property's been on the market, and these things, believe it or not, are connected. Your reasoning in calling in for what are your fees is not so far disconnected to probably why your property has been on the market for 3-4 months. But so he's wanting to get in. I have no problem disclosing that, but I know this. We are not going to be your cheapest property management company, nor are we we're far from the highest as well. But there are costs involved in protecting your asset and providing you the best service, not only you, but also providing your tenant the best service, which is going to result in the highest ROI on your property. So we balance that between the fee structure for providing you property management services. So if you're calling us just to shop us for the lowest fee structure, you're not going to find it. But there is a true factor of you get what you pay for. And if you're only shopping for the lowest cost property manager because you're hoping that they can achieve a lower vacancy rate, sir, you're wrong. That's not what you're going to likely result in a very budget friendly property management company who likely doesn't have the processes or systems in place in order to achieve what it is your ultimate goal is, what prompted you in making the phone call in the first place. All right, I'm going to shut up because I could keep going, but there's so many issues with that mindset. It's just mind blowing. But I understand the question. I have no problem disclosing fees, but if we're going to be, and it ultimately came down to, obviously we weren't the right company. We weren't going to be the right connection for one another. But okay, what's your take, Mike? What are your fees?
Yeah, I agree, Chris. I mean, just to echo yours, I mean, like you said, you get what you pay for. Like when we bring on a property, we do a market readiness assessment of the home that takes us 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours to really walk through and look at that property and evaluate it and see what it may need from a marketing point of view, from a rental point of view. We spend the time to do that. We put together an estimate. Yeah. We order professional photos on every single listing. We do a video walkthrough and post those to YouTube and all of the socials. I mean, all that stuff takes time and it costs money. But yes, what it does is it helps reduce your vacancy.
Yeah, and then maybe it's the carpet because the carpet's filthy, right, and that's why you haven't leased the. Sorry, and that's right, maybe that's why. We have to identify that. We have to identify that so that we can provide you the service that you're ultimately looking for to increase your ROI. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. No, and then I'm just going forward. I mean, how you treat the tenants during the tenancy in terms of the preventative maintenance, going back to what we talked about before. I mean, doing preventative maintenance, not having your AC fail in the middle of July on a Saturday and they have to deal with, no air for 2 or 3 or 4 days. I mean, all that stuff adds up to tenant retention, and tenant retention is better for you, better for the investor, better for ROI, to not have a move out, to not have turn costs. All of that stuff goes into all of that. So, Chris, we could go on for like this for days.
I know. Yeah. And again, so if you're curious on what a property manager's fee structure is, you should be. You need that is
Of course.
information you obviously need,
Of
but it's
course.
important for you to understand that to increase your ROI does not mean, in fact, it probably is going to it's going to negatively affect your ROI if all you're looking for is the lowest cost property manager, because you're talking about completely different asset protection when you're
Yep.
looking at only fees alone. So just understand in your search, be sure to only make that a very small factor in your inquisition. Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of short-term thinking versus long-term thinking. We like
Yeah.
to think in terms of long-term, and we're a 3 to 5 to 10 year time horizon is how we make our decisions. How I make my decisions on my rental home, right? I'm not looking for this month or this quarter. I'm looking at, okay, what's the best for this property for the next 5 years, 10 years, and so just kind of that mindset.
Yeah, I have no doubt that that's going to be extremely valuable information for a lot of the viewers. So, okay, all right, let's get into question 3. I try to keep this segment down to 2 questions, but this one's kind of a little bit more self-serving because I honestly want your take here and what you think is the best approach when you have an owner. Backstory. Here we go. So they were referred to a property manager here in town, and they were about to move forward. As referrals, I mean, typically move a lot faster, right? They were referred to you. You trust them. You're ready to move forward. So they were going to.
Yep.
They had the management agreement show up in their inbox. They're reviewing it, and they have discovered. And this is mind blowing. I've been in this industry for almost 20 years, and the fees that and I'm not going to mention who they are, but the fees that this company has, I'm not sure how they're getting, and maybe they're not. Maybe they're trying to phase out property management because that's the only thing I would see coming from this fee structure because it is unbelievable. And I mean, fees. I wish I had some. One thing I didn't notate as we were going through them, as she would share some of these with me, and I should have notated them and I didn't. But they were unbelievable. For if they even were considering responding to your email, it was like a $20 charge. It was. I know that sounds, but it was very close to just that ridiculous. It was really crazy, and it's not that I don't understand that action requires there's cost to action. I
Yeah.
understand that. I do understand that, but this was unbelievable. Anyway, that's the backstory. That's what led her to picking up the phone and calling other management companies. So again, this was a one that came in late in the evening. I picked up and we're talking, going through this, and that was 2 months ago, almost 2.5 months ago, that this call came in. So now I believe that she is, and we have dissected every part of our management program, which again is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I want to know, Mike, do you think that it is possible to do too much inquisition? Now I believe that she has called every property manager in the city, and I believe that I mean, we're gonna land her. I'm almost certain of that, but I mean, we're the best property management company in town. Of course we are. But
Obviously.
do you think it's possible to over inquire on when you're searching out for a property management company? And I'm going to get your take, and then I'm going to kind of share why I'm kind of asking this question. Do you think that's possible?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, if you're talking to 10 different property management companies, that's probably too many. I think most people are going to do their research online. Look at the website, look at the reviews, watch our videos on YouTube. Get a comfort level for. I would suggest 2 or 3 or 4. That would be my suggestion. Compare and contrast, like you said. Get a hold of the fees. I mean, we just talked about fees not being the utmost importance, but if it's a situation like this, I mean, obviously you got to know the fees. So,
Yeah.
and there are going to be differences. So I would say 2 or 3 or 4 would be probably adequate after you've kind of vetted them a little bit online. Maybe you start with 10ish and then whittle it down to the top 2 or 3 or 4 and then have a conversations with those. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I think that's good. And a couple of the reasons why I'm asking is the property. I've walked the property. It's great property. It's pristine. It's beautiful. It's ready to go. It's sitting there, month after month. We're in the perfect seasonality.
Yeah.
And so not only does my informative side kick in, but also I'm like, let's go. Man, we're burning. But I also know that we're a quality property management company, right? But she doesn't know that yet. So I'm
Right.
trying to be a little bit sympathetic and understand that as well. but you're burning springtime interest.
Yeah.
The rental market's booming. Your property is, as I've walked it, I've shared with you, it's ready to rock. You're ready to secure a good quality tenant at top rental value. Let's go. Let's burn and turn. Especially because we've dissected every other piece of our property management services. So I think that yes, you can. I like the way you laid it out. Start with 10, kind of wheel it down to 3 or 4. Some of the big major issues. But I think if you hold on too long as you're inquiring so much, I think that you have a little bit more potential for emotion playing into your decision, which I think is a little bit of a problem. I think you can over dissect where emotion. You may hear something, who knows what it could be, but that might trigger you in one direction rather than reasoning might by just holding off too long and over dissecting and losing out on some of the important information that we learned on a month and a half ago that should be weighing in your decision. And now you're just you're just getting over emotional in your decision. So I feel like that's happening here. So I wanted to get your take and see if you thought that was a case. Also, I'm like a little bit scorn of why you haven't signed on yet. Let's go. Let's go.
That's what it's really about. That's what it's really about. This is a therapy session.
Yeah,
this is really just a therapy session for Chris.
This was a therapy session. That's exactly what this was. So there you go. For whatever value that is, that is going to conclude our property management question of the week. Now we got in 3. I hope you find some value in that, and that you check back in to see what kind of crazy questions I'm going to find by next month. All right, that's a wrap.